The final day of any cruise is such an important one. There are some things that, if you forget to do them, or if you get them wrong, you'll go home with a sour taste in your mouth, and you might also be pretty embarrassed. In this video today, I'm going to share with you 15 things that you should think about doing on the last day of your cruise in order to make sure that you have the best and smoothest final day possible. If you enjoy this video today, and if you find it useful, it would be great if you would consider supporting my channel by clicking both the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons. If you've just found me today for the first time, then I'm Fraser, and I use my YouTube channel to share my cruise experiences with you, including all of my tips, all of my advice, and also general life on board. If you like the sound of that, click subscribe and come with me on so many more trips. Now let's get started on the first of 15 things that you should think about doing on the final day of your cruise. Number 1. Wake up early. You usually will have to leave your cabin by 8 o'clock in the morning on disembarkation day, so why not set your alarm early? Get up, have your breakfast, and then come back to your room to collect things like your bags. You also find that some cruise lines will have hand luggage drop-off, meaning that you can wake up nice and early, leave the cabin at 8 AM, and then take your hand luggage or your carry-on bag to a designated area where you can drop it off to then collect before you leave the ship. Personally, I think there is nothing worse than rushing around crazy on the final morning of your cruise, so I always like to set my alarm a little bit earlier, get up, get my breakfast, and get sorted at a far more relaxed pace than I would be if I woke up 15 minutes before I have to leave the cabin. Number 2. Settle any unpaid bills for your onboard expenses. If you've connected your credit or debit card to your account, then the process of doing that should or will be automated, meaning that before you leave the ship, you'll usually find that you'll be notified on your online banking that the payment has gone through. If, however, you're choosing to settle your account in cash, you'll be required to go to guest services to finish that transaction off before you leave the ship. The reason why it's important to go sooner rather than later is that as more and more people wake up and leave their cabins and finish breakfast, there are going to be so many more people going to guest services to settle their accounts. So once you're up, maybe before breakfast, go and settle your account if you're paying in cash, or if you haven't been notified from your bank that payment is all good. It's always better to do it there while there's no line, rather than get to the disembarkation point and get sent back to guest services. Number 3. Stick to your dedicated disembarkation slot. Therefore, meaning that if everybody does that, you should move through the cruise terminal at a much smoother pace than what you will if everybody turns up at the wrong time. In the days coming up to disembarkation day, you'll be given a luggage tag or a luggage label that you'll have attached to your checked bags the night before you leave the ship. On disembarkation morning itself, the ship's crew will announce through the audio system what order the luggage tags will be disembarked in. You'll also find this information is usually made available in a letter delivered to your cabin so that everybody on board knows what's going on. You'll then find that if you've got a blue luggage label, for example, you'll disembark at a different time to the people with a red luggage label or a yellow luggage label, and so on and so forth. Some cruise lines will have loads of different colours, while others will maybe only have 3 or 4, depending on how they plan to disembark all of the passengers. If everybody sticks to the time that they've been given, then in theory, everybody should flow through the terminal much better than if everybody just bundles down to the gangway at the same time. So yes, number 3, find out what your disembarkation time slot is and try to stick to that. Number 4, go for your final breakfast in the main dining room if that option is available on your chosen cruise ship. I meet so many people that don't even know this is an option, and they end up eating at the onboard buffet, which is absolutely full of other passengers trying to get their final breakfast before they have to leave the ship. With the majority of cruise lines out there, you're going to find that Yes, the onboard buffet is open for the quicker and potentially easier way of getting breakfast, but if you've got time, I would really recommend sitting down and relaxing in the main dining room and having breakfast served to you. Where that's particularly useful is if you have to disembark your cabin at 8 AM, as we mentioned earlier, and the cruise line you're travelling with has got somewhere that you can go to drop off your carry-on bags. You can then relax while eating your breakfast, waiting for your luggage tag number to be called. You might find that your luggage tags will disembark the ship at 9:30, so would you rather be in an incredibly busy buffet restaurant trying to get your breakfast, and it's pretty chaotic, or would you rather be relaxing at a table in the main dining room, having everything served to you? Personally, it's a pretty easy choice for me, and I'll be in that dining room every single time. Number 5, check if you've got any onboard spend remaining, and if you do, can you spend it? Now, you might want to look at this in the last couple of days, approaching the end of the cruise, rather than waking up on the final day and realising that you might have a couple of £100 or euros or dollars with no way to spend it on board. Some cruise lines might offer you the ability to receive some form of benefit on your next cruise if you do have any onboard spend remaining, but the majority out there will wipe that at the end of the cruise, and it's a case of you either use it or you lose it. That means that if you leave the ship on the final day and you've still got some onboard credit there on your account, that will simply be wiped to zero, and you won't receive a transfer to your bank account, for example, of that money after the cruise. You find that there are some cruise lines that offer bar tab on the ship. The specific example I would give here would be Virgin Voyages. Rather than buying a drinks package with Virgin that allows you a certain number of drinks per day for a set price, they offer a bar tab, which means that if you load your account with $500 of bar tab or drinks credit, for example, you will then usually get a little bonus before you get on the cruise. That money will then be deducted from all of your drinks all the way through the cruise. So if you spend $10 on your first drink, you'll have 490 remaining, so on and so forth. It's really important that you make sure at the end of a Virgin Voyages cruise that you don't have any bar tab remaining, because that will go straight down to zero. There are some clever things that you can buy with, for example, bar tab, like you could even buy some duty-free alcohol to take home, or maybe just buy some bottles or cans of water to take on your flight with you. So, long story short, make sure that you don't have any bar tab or onboard spend remaining when you go to leave your cruise. Number 6, take any final photographs or videos of your cruise ship before you head ashore. I've met so many people in the past who have said to me, "Oh, did you get a photograph of whichever venue on board?" Because stupidly, I forgot to take one before I left the ship. You'll often find on disembarkation morning that the ship has been fully dressed overnight, waiting to accept its new batch of passengers the following day. That means that when you wake up on disembarkation morning, everything will probably look pretty spotless, meaning that if you've got any last minute photos or videos to take, the ship's going to look great. So number 6, any last minute photos or videos, take them before you leave the ship. Number 7, reserve or book your taxi or ride share from the cruise terminal as early as you possibly can. Some cruise terminals are a bit of a nightmare because they will have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, sometimes even more passengers leaving one cruise ship. Imagine that if you dock somewhere like the port of Miami and you've got 4 or 5 terminals, all with mega ships, disembarking thousands and thousands of passengers. At the end of the day, there are only so many Ubers or so many Lyft providers that are available in one city. That means that by the time they spread out across all the terminals, you might be waiting for quite some time. That's okay if you don't have any onward travel arrangements, but if you're trying to get to an airport, for example, to catch a connecting flight to take you home, you're going to be pretty stressed if you find that you get off of the ship, you load your Uber app, and the wait is really long. So if you can book your Uber or your taxi or your Lyft in advance, it's definitely worth doing that. Number 8, on the topic of flights and airports, make sure that on the final day of your cruise, you leave the ship in plenty of time to catch your flight. Some ports will have tens of thousands of cruise passengers leaving at one time. Double in with that the fact that most cruise ships will disembark during the morning rush hour in that city, and you've got the perfect cocktail for very long highway or motorway queues and very busy airport check-in windows. Just make sure that you book a flight that's far enough in the future to allow you to make that journey. And also, make sure you get up and get off that ship as early as possible. Going back to the luggage tag colours and the disembarkation time slots, if you find that while you're on the cruise, you're allocated to a later disembarkation slot than you'd like, just go and speak to reception or the guest services team, and they can usually move you to an earlier slot without any real issue at all. Just make sure you ask that question in plenty of time so that they can give you the new luggage tag colours and you know what time to get off rather than leaving it until the last minute. For example, if you ask that question on disembarkation morning, you get an earlier slot, but your bags arrive at the later slot, well, it's all a bit of a problem really, isn't it? So just make sure that you leave yourself enough time between the ship and the airport. Number 9, on the final day of your cruise, think about tips and gratuities. Most cruise lines out there will apply a set amount for tips and gratuities, and that will be billed daily to your onboard account. For example, you might find that if you stay in a balcony cabin, you might pay $15 per day. As an example, that amount is then split between various departments on board and it will automatically come off of your account. However, some people then choose to allocate some extra money personally to members of staff who do provide a particularly high level of service while they're on board. That might mean that you want to give an additional gratuity or an additional tip to people like your cabin attendant or waiters or waitresses that you've really bonded with during the cruise. It's important that you give yourself enough time to recognise these people. While I am saying here, you should think about this on the final day, you really should be thinking about it the day before, because if you'd like to recognise a waiter or a waitress, for example, if they're working at the dinner service and that's where you've met them, there's a chance that they might not be on shift first thing in the morning to do the early breakfast on disembarkation day. So make sure you think, if there are any members of the crew that you would like to personally recognise with an additional gratuity, make sure you plan when to give them it so that you don't miss overlapping with them on that final morning. Number 10, make a point of going into the safe in your cabin or stateroom and making sure that it's empty. So many people post online on Facebook groups, for example, about things like jewellery or house keys or maybe even credit or debit cards that they've accidentally left in the safe in their cruise ship cabin. It is so easy to do because there are so many things to think about when you're leaving that room for the final time. And it's even more stressful if your cabin attendant is waiting to come in that room to start cleaning it. All you want to do is get your bag and run down that corridor rather than checking every single area of the room that you think you've already checked. Some safes, when you open them, then have a small black mat or what feels like a piece of carpet in the bottom of it. That therefore can make it so easy for things to fall underneath or for things to just not light up the same when you're looking in with the normal daylight from the cabin. It's so important that you just put your hand in, run it round and just do a quick sense check to make sure that you've got everything. Because remember, if you don't and the ship then finds it a few days into the next cruise, well, that ship's no longer in the port that you disembarked from. So if you are lucky enough to be reunited with whatever you've left in that safe, it might take a while. Number 11, and this is one of my absolute favourite things to do. The 11th thing that you should think about for that final day of your cruise is going for one final walk before you disembark. I always try to go for either one lap of the promenade deck or one lap of the top deck on the morning that I leave my cruise ship. I always think it's such a nice way to just pause for a second, breathe, and take it all in one final time. Going back to my point from earlier, because the ship is ready to embark its next lot of passengers, it usually means that places like the pool deck are presented so beautifully. You'll also find the swimming pool is closed. There are very few passengers up there because people are more worried on the final day about getting their final breakfast than going for a walk. So it gives you the really rare luxury of being on often a huge cruise ship in the daylight with very few other passengers. So yes, try and carve out time in your schedule on that last day for one final walk. Number 12. Try not to stress too much about the final day packing arrangements. The main bag that you're checking in for your onward travels will usually go outside your cabin on that final night, but it's really important that you keep everything that you're going to need overnight and in the morning in your carry-on bag. At the end of this video, I'll link you up to another video that I've created which covers everything that you should be packing into your carry-on bag when you cruise. There are so many things that people forget about and they end up waking up on Disembarkation Day and realising that they've made a bit of a boo-boo. So when you cruise, your main suitcase or your main checked bag will go out into the corridor the night before, and then in the morning when you leave the cruise ship, you'll just have carry-on or hand luggage. You'll then be reunited with your main checked bag inside the terminal, meaning that you've got a transition period there where you won't have access to that big suitcase. So it's really important you get it right, but with a little bit of planning, it really is no problem at all, and it's super easy. So stay tuned until the end of this video, and I'll link you over to there. Number 13. This is one that I absolutely love, but I only thought about doing it during one of my most recent cruises. The 13th thing that you could think about doing on Disembarkation Day of your cruise is doing a digital grocery shop. Yes, that's right, a digital grocery shop. I tried this on one of my last cruises and it was great to arrive home to find the supermarket that I usually shop at delivering all of my groceries in a few hours' time. That meant that I didn't have to worry about going to do a food shop after I arrived home. I could just come home, relax, put all of my clothes in the laundry, and by the time they came out clean, my food shopping was also here. You can do this as soon as you dock on your ship if you've got access to the internet in whichever cruise port you're in, or if you've got a Wi-Fi package, you can jump online during your final day at sea or during the day before you disembark and get your order in. So yes, number 13, why not place a grocery shop online before you head home? The 14th thing that it's very important that you remember to do on Disembarkation Day or the final day of your cruise is to keep your passport and your travel documents handy and on your person to help you get over the border. There would be nothing worse than arriving at a border to go into a country to then realise that your passport or your onward travel documents are in your checked bag, which is through the other side of passport control or border force, waiting to be collected. That then means that you'll be accompanied by an agent to get your bag to then be brought back to the border. Honestly, it would be a lot of stress and a lot of hassle that, to be honest, you don't need, because it won't be the calmest of ends to your vacation. So make sure that if you do have a border to cross when you get off your ship, keep things like your passport, your money, any documents you need on your person in your carry-on bag to make the whole process so much simpler. Number 15. If time is on your side before you have to then catch, for example, a flight home, why not see about extending your stay, either on your cruise ship or at a nearby resort? I couldn't believe this was an option on actually the cruise that I'm about to head off on. I'm about to take a cruise with Celebrity Cruises, and on the ship that I'm travelling on, they allow you the option on your final day to extend your stay beyond the time that you'll usually have to leave the ship by. That means that you can spend all afternoon relaxing by the pool on your cruise ship, Before you then head to either your hotel late afternoon in the city that we're docking in, or your flight from the airport later that evening. It's such a nice alternative to having to rush out of your cabin and rush off of the ship in the morning. I love the thought of being able to just relax up on deck or wandering around the ship for a few more hours. It's such a cool thing for a cruise line to offer. You also will find that there are websites out there that allow you the ability to buy day passes for resorts all around the world. You can find more information on this down in the description of this video, but places like Miami are so popular for this. This means that you can use the swimming pools and the facilities of some of the biggest and some of the most exclusive or expensive hotels in that area for the price of a day pass, rather than paying for a room to use those facilities. That allows you to get a later flight out of Miami, for example, and spend the day relaxing poolside at a lovely hotel. As I say, you'll find more information on this down in the description of this video. So head down there and have a look for your next cruise. And that's it. That's 15 things that you need to be thinking about to get Disembarkation Day, or the final day of your cruise, done right. I really hope you've enjoyed this video today, and I hope you're going to find it beneficial and useful. If you have enjoyed it, then it would be great if you'd think about supporting my channel by clicking both the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons, and I'd love you to come and join me in another video. Over in this video, I'm going to share with you, as I mentioned earlier, a whole range of things that you really should be packing into your carry-on bag to make sure that you get that side of things totally right. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you over in this video or in another over on my channel. Thanks very much.